Hi, everyone, and welcome to the next interview of Masters of Manifestation Online Summit 2020. Today, I'm with Olumide. Thank you for being here. I'm glad that we can have that chat together and give insight to the audience. Olumide is the founder of Globalversity, which is a platform, an educational platform for remote workers. And he is also an expert on PR and media for entrepreneurs. So if ever you want to be covered in media, press, television, it's the guy to reach out to. So Olumide, thank you for being here again. I will give you 5 minutes to introduce yourself so that the audience can get to know you with your own words. Where do you come from? What is your background, your life journey? I know 5 minutes is short, but we will keep digging into the topic that you will talk about later.
Sure, brother. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be on here. I know there's amazing world-class individuals on here, so I'm really honored to be on. And just to jump straight into it, yes, my name is Olumide GBENRO, and I was born in Nigeria, 1988. I'm 32 years old, and 6 years old was when we left Nigeria to live in the United Kingdom. So we ended up immigrating to the United Kingdom. I lived my young childhood years from like age 6 to 13 in the UK, and then when I was 13, I moved to the United States. So we won the green card lottery. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's something that is given to certain countries to help, I guess, develop the American economy. So my parents kept entering into it, and I guess it was destiny for us to get to America. And funny story actually with that origin story is to share that funny enough when we arrived was a few months after September 11th happened.
Okay.
The sort of terrorist attacks, and that was very instrumental in me seeing the world with open eyes very quickly, even at age 12, age 13. But anyway, with my story, I grew up in the US, normal life, Nigerian American kid, expected to go to university. And I did everything really I was supposed to do, went to university, undergraduate. I did two master's degrees, but I don't think during that time I realized how unhappy I was. A lot of the things I was doing was to please my parents. And as I became an adult, and after I graduated from my master's, I jumped into entrepreneurship and learning online business, media, PR, social media marketing. And thankfully, after a few years jabbing at it, I figured some things out, and I'm able to be in the position I am today, thankfully. Made some brilliant, amazing relationships and connections along the way, and truly excited to share some knowledge, some things that I may have experienced that others don't have knowledge of, that will be able to teach something. And I'm looking forward to learning from the other speakers as well.
Okay, great. So, yeah, you like before 20, you live in different countries. I can imagine that, yeah, coming into the US after the 11th 2001 might be
Hmm.
kind of an experience. We'll call it like
Yeah.
that. Um, so right now you do not just have one job, because you're a creator, and so you work in PR, you work for remote workers as well. Do you always add that multi-personality, where you wanted to try different things? Like, how did you come up doing different things?
Yeah, I think for me, well, first of all, as an entrepreneur, doing too much was definitely a thing that I was used to earlier on. So I cut it down to a few things. Now I'm focused mainly on my PR agency and building this community of remote workers. So I think for me, the similarities between my two projects, my two main projects, are building community and connection. So I actually see them in some ways as the same business. I'm always in the business of community and connection, community in building a space, whether it's online or physical, for people to meet, learn, grow as individuals, spiritually, emotionally. And then when it comes to connections, even with PR, it's being able to connect someone with the right publication or pitch their story to a TV show and to get them an interview with somebody notable. So it's always about connecting people. So that's the similarity I see with any business I'll ever do. I've identified my gifts, community, and networking or ability to create good, healthy growth relationships in business and personal as well. And yeah, it's something I think is really like stands out for me. It's just that those two things.
Okay. So your first business that you created as an entrepreneur was in PR, right?
No, actually, and it
No.
was it was in community building. It was a luxury networking community for. Well, we can
Yeah.
pause. You can edit that out. I don't know what
Yeah.
someone might
I
want
will
to
edit
listen to.
that.
Oh, it
It's
switched
okay.
back on. Let me check where my audio is coming from. Audio. Yeah, for some odd reason it switched to the other mic, but okay, we'll just keep going. So my first business was, at least my first jump into entrepreneurship, was a luxury networking event, sort of community where people on a monthly basis would come together and network for business. And I had investors, real estate developers, some celebrities. It was in Los Angeles, so I had professional athletes, and that was my first time really growing a community. It's which right now the new community is totally different. This is remote, independent, location independent entrepreneurs. This was the wealthiest people in Southern California. But regardless, it was me learning how to build a community and give value to people and help them find the space to communicate and connect. So that was my
Okay.
first business, which actually served as a foundation for my PR business because I was able to meet so many different people in media and marketing, people who own major brands and companies. So it's helped me in my current, main business.
Okay. And how did you end up doing that? Like, what was it inside you that made you decide to start that luxurious networking business? Was it an opportunity that you grabbed from outside? Was it more like a vivid vision you had in your mind, more like a feeling that you couldn't really explain, but you knew you had to follow?
Mm-hmm.
What was the starting point for you?
Yeah, for me, it was, I think, this religious background I grew up with as a church boy. My father is a minister, a pastor, Christian religious background made me sort of understand the elements of community. So I feel like it's crazy how you never really notice it, but as you get older, you notice how you take attributes from your father or from religion or the experiences. And I realized that I had the gift for getting people together or communing people in some way, shape, or form. So I actually used to, the most basic rudimentary way to explain it is I used to throw the biggest parties on the college campus. I used to create these parties and tell people like, it's like $7, $8 to get in, like there's music, we got a DJ, there's decorations, there's lights. And I figured out that that was something that I was gifted at, and I kept doing it, and it ended up evolving. It just got better and better, bigger and better. I made sure as I learned things too, was to make sure I did it legally. I did everything right. I registered the company. I was inviting people who were, older, mature. I started to curate something better than what I started as because I was learning as I was growing. So even as I was growing as a in my own business and understanding like what is the value I'm creating for people, it improved the business that I was currently working on and helped me learn a lot really fast.
Okay. And what made you decide to stop and to do something else?
Yeah, and total transparency is that there was also a lifestyle associated with that. It was Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, and I noticed doing these events, it went away from my original vision. My original vision was to connect, entrepreneurs, investors, real estate developers, and people who are really well off to create impact. But what I noticed was while it was growing, it was taking a life of its own. There was a lot of LA culture, and just to be transparent, maybe there was drugs and things that were happening that I didn't see that were happening at the events I was hosting, and I did not want to be a part of that. The core of me, even though I never saw it, once I learned about it, didn't see that as my true purpose or calling. So I stepped out of it. And that was one of the hardest things because it was generating a good amount of revenue every month as a college student, where I was in debt at the time as a college student. Yet you'd be making thousands of dollars on a monthly basis from this new membership that I created. I could have stayed and made a ton of money, but my core self also told me that this isn't the right place for you. So I decided to leave, and that's where I started to travel the world a little bit and sort of explore the laptop lifestyle, like what it's like to create an income from behind the laptop instead of in person.
Okay. So let's pause here for a second, because you say that something that is very interesting, and uh, I believe that everyone is, or mostly everyone is going through that at some point in the entrepreneurial journey. We're facing a kind of breakdown, a pain point where we have to make a decision, and there is that battle between intuition and rationality or logic. And for you, the intuition was to let go of that business and to start traveling and discovering the laptop lifestyle. And on the other hand, there are that logic and rationality and ego that told you, like, but why would you do that? Like, you're generating good money out of that business. It's I mean, you can be known, you can be someone in LA, etc. Like those two parts in the mind talking to you. So what were the self-sabotaging stories or the limiting belief or the fears you had before to make the decision to let go and to create something new? What could have make you not
Yeah.
make that decision?
Yeah, I think, if I were to think back, probably thoughts around like, can I make money doing something else? I'm really good at this one thing. Like, I'm not sure what my other skills are if they're not directly related to hosting in-person events or community building in person. How in the world would I make an income from this gift I know I have? So it's like I felt as though I was ignoring my gift, and if I didn't use it, then I wouldn't have any income or have any way to survive or thrive. So I think one was definitely like fear of, my ability to actually get something done. And then some, also maybe another limited belief was like uh, income, just sort of like, if I don't do this, I will have no income. So
Mm,
I'm limiting myself by income by saying, I need income to be make impact or to live this lifestyle that I was already living. So it's kind of the same thing, but it is, I think, mainly around what other things am I good at that's going to help me bounce back from this, because I made the choice myself consciously.
okay. And what helped you to make the decision? So you say there is that gift part where you wanted to honor a gift. How do you knew that? How do you knew that you had to follow that feeling that is inside that tells you what you should do? How did you dare following it?
Mm. I think because I knew, I also knew that there would be other opportunities. I knew like this one vehicle or this container isn't all that the root of what makes this good is you, and the root is your gift. So if you just apply this in another place, I thought to myself as well, even if I had limited beliefs, I was like, I'll figure this out. I believe in myself. I know what I'm capable of. And if I've done something this cool, I know I can come up with something. It might not be tomorrow, but I knew inside that I had the ability to, despite the limiting belief to be able to create something later that may be better or look completely different. But I knew I had something inside me that said, you have the ability to create something special, and it's still there. All because this is ending doesn't mean it's not there. It's still there. You just have to
Mhm.
figure things out.
Okay. So in which year did you start to travel around the world and doing the laptop lifestyle?
Yeah. I would say end of 2015, early 2016. Let's just say 2016, about 4 years ago from now. And we're about to be in 2021, which is
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, about 4 years.
Okay. And what happened next when you decided to start that lifestyle, that laptop lifestyle? So you're out of business, so you're not generating money when you, I guess, the first few months.
Mhm.
So what happened next once you
It was
decided
more
to go for
than
it?
that. Yeah, it was downhill from there. I mean, it was a challenge. It's one of the most challenging times of my life. I think even 2 years and 2.5 years, yeah, about 2.5 years, no, 1.5 years into it was the most challenging time because when I traveled, now I understood marketing. I was doing Instagram consultation. So I was doing helping people grow on Instagram at the time. It was a lot easier back then, by the way, but I was doing consultations on helping people set up their personal brand on Instagram and help them grow. And I was not generating as much income as I was doing what I was doing back in California. So what I ended up doing was I was traveling across Europe and visiting friends who were my friends from back in college that I had met. So when we all graduated, they all went back to Germany and you know Denmark and Sweden, and then when I started traveling after I graduated, a few months after, after I decided to move on from this business, first business, I was actually staying on their couches and couch surfing all through Europe while trying to build this business.
Mhm.
So if anybody knows bootstrapping and what it means to start at nothing with a business and grow it to something decent, then I do because I was couch surfing. I'd be in Netherlands, then I then I take a train. I'd go to Hamburg, Germany to visit a buddy. Then I go to Copenhagen, Denmark, and I was just floating. It was one of the most challenging times because I think I didn't really have a purpose anymore. I didn't feel like I was building something, so I was more reactionary and realized that if I could create an income online, that's great. I have some freedom, but because of the limitation of income, it left me sort of very misguided. And I didn't, when I look back, I definitely didn't know what I was doing at the time. That's what I felt like. What's next? Like, however long, Daniel lets me stay. Okay, he's at 3 weeks, couch surfing 3 weeks in Berlin, like keep working on your social media. Like that's all I knew. I didn't have any awakening yet or guidance as to what was I doing. I was just floating. So that was about a year and a half. And I think
I,
eventually,
I
as
will
I learned more about
just
marketing,
I will just stop that
go
because
ahead.
there is a great insight that you say is it
Mhm.
can take time to figure out what we want to do or what we want to do next. Um, we see online that people create business, etc., but those are just like pics or videos. We do not know that maybe they've been through 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years of wondering what to do before. And it's a beautiful
Yeah.
example for you where you started in US financially successful business at that time, and then it took 1 year and a half to completely figure out what is your next purpose, what you want to do next to reconnect to yourself. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing the fact that it's not always instantly. It can take time, and it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Where was I? So, going through this in Europe and traveling, it wasn't until I really the time that it took to really learn myself, learn learn some new skills I was developing, learn that I had other things to offer to the world. Wasn't until then that I was able to have a more sound solid base under me. And what happened at the time was I left Germany. It was getting cold. My 3 months was up in Europe with an American passport. You can only stay 3 months, then you have to leave for 3 months. So I left and I went to Mexico, Mexico City. And that was the first time I had my own apartment. You know, I had a solid three clients, higher ticket clients. And so I now had, and it's interesting, I'm glad this came to mind. I now had money, I had security, but I didn't have community or the structure of friendships that I would when I was had no money. It was such a juxtaposition of it's like almost like you can have the friends but no money, or you can have the money but no friends at the time. That's what it felt like to me because I rented an apartment in Mexico City. It was nice, security guard, good neighborhood. My one of my buddies was he's an actor and he had friends and they had their things, so I didn't always hang out with them because they were in sort of like Mexican Hollywood, and I was just kind of or like kind of influencers, and I was just kind of like left out to my own self to work on me. Also, it was one of the first times where I was alone by myself for so long as an adult. So it gave me a chance to really think internally and grow and think about what do I really want in life. When you spend so much time in silence by yourself, you start to think like, what do I actually care
Mm,
about? And at the time, I realized that I wanted to actually be around the community and be around people that were similar, like-minded, entrepreneurs, digital nomads. And I had been watching things about Bali, on YouTube, different YouTubers, entrepreneurs talking about it. And I had a friend that was in Bali, and that's what attracted me to come to Bali as that next phase. I've been here about a year and a half, and the reason I came here is because a friend told me it's an amazing place to live and the lifestyle, and the mental health side of it is just so much better than other places that I've been. So a year and a half ago, ooh, it's almost wow, it's like no, it's almost 2 years ago that I decided to take that move, leave Mexico City, and come to Bali. And that's where I've been ever since. Running my businesses online, and I think a lot of the lessons I learned was just about figuring out my true heart's desires. If you don't know where you're going, you can't really write. You don't know where to start on the map or where it ends or what the sort of the path looks like. So once I
mhm.
figured out that I desired to have a good income, but also be around friends and people who were like-minded, then I made the next move.
Okay. And then you're reconnected to the community side that you lost.
Yes,
Great.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, what made you decide to jump into the remote workers or digital nomad industries?
I think I was living it by when I first started traveling. I just didn't. There wasn't a name for it, or I just noticed in the beginning I would used to be the only one at Starbucks in Mexico City, and now you go to Starbucks in Mexico City, and there's well now that COVID's going on, but in general there's usually people. Someone's on their laptop working, or on a phone call, on a Skype call, and I realized how even in the last 4 years it's even gotten more acceptable and now it's become reality of working remotely.
So, before to keep going on your journey, and we will talk about the digital nomad project that you've been working on, I have a question about faith for you. What is faith for you, and how do you define it, and how important is it for you to have faith on, like, not just
Mm.
in yourself but in life, in knowing that life will support you in achieving your desires?
Very cool. Well, I mean, like I said earlier, I was raised a Christian, so
Mhm.
that context, my first interaction with faith in God, everything's going to be okay. It was sort of some people say blind faith. Like you believe that something's going to happen even if you don't physically see it in the human realm. So I think a lot of my understanding of faith definitely is rooted in that. But now as an adult, especially in business or personally, I really see faith as like a commitment, like knowing that you believe something is possible, but you make a commitment to it. It's not just, oh, it's just going to happen. It's that, in your head and in your heart, that because you're committed, that's why it will happen. Because you say to yourself and you believe that something's going to happen for you, good things are going to happen for you, then it's going to happen for you. So that's my current interpretation of faith, is not blindly, but by trusting it in yourself and truly knowing that anything is possible, and then things can come true for you.
Okay. And how do you build that faith? Like, was it very natural for you, or have you been through moments where you lost faith somehow, or had less faith
Mm-hmm.
and had to rework on it and rework on your commitment and your commitment to building from pure
Mm-hmm.
intention? Have you been through this kind of moments?
I've never lost faith ever in myself, in anything. Like I always, I'm rooted in knowing that anything is possible, and that if it doesn't happen, it just wasn't the right time. I really believe that. Like if you believe in something, if it doesn't happen, it's just not the right time, or it's not for you. And I think
Okay.
even as you, if as you mature in the way that you live and the way that you live your life, the things that you are wanting and that you want to manifest in your life or to happen, you're only going to desire the things that are in alignment anyway, and they're likely to come true because they're in alignment with who you are, with the people around you, and the relationships that you have, physically, spiritually, and you're more likely to have something come to fruition because you're in alignment with your purpose.
Okay. I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
Um, you told me earlier before to start the interview that you you have the practice to write down your goals. Um,
Mhm.
is, like, why do you do that? And does that help you to be committed towards your desire and what you want to create?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think I write down all goals, from what I'm doing 2 hours from now to what I want to do 2 years from now. So it helps me because it makes it more real. And one of the things, because I consider myself an entrepreneur, when I have an idea, whether it's a business, a physical product, a service, I actually, even if I think it's a 2 year project, I write it down. I write down the structure. I write down, draw what the physical product looks like. I design the packaging before it even happens. Now I have dozens of these projects. None of them necessarily have come true, but I still put them down and visualize again if that opportunity comes up. And if the alignment is there, the right partners emerge, I'm in the right country at the right time to source something, then that becomes the actual reality. But in terms of the belief and faith behind it, I believe in all 12 businesses that I've started in my head or I've written down. They just
Mhm.
might not be in alignment right now or the right timing.
Yeah, or maybe you can combine some of those ideas later and come up with
Yeah.
something unexpected right now.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking different elements, combining things, and even with the current time around the world, things that apply to now, maybe they're stepping up. They're being revealed to me, like, this is why you came up with this idea. Even for global diversity, as you said, it was supposed to be 2 years from now. Like we're supposed to develop the platform, be patient, and then COVID happened, and now this is needed. So
Mhm.
things manifested based on reality as well, and the things that were happening in real life.
Okay. So let's talk about COVID and what
Sure.
happened to you before COVID. Because I remember that I first met you when you were drafting out the Digital Nomad Summit. You wanted to build the DNS, Digital Nomad Summit, and you planned to
Hmm.
make it like the number one digital nomad summit in the world. And
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I've been so fucking inspired by what you did with that
Thank you.
project to tell people, like you build a website, and you not only built a website that was appealing, you rented a place like a convention center in Bali. You created promotional video and materials in that place there, showing people that it was real and it was you. It was
Yeah.
you working with other people who helped you for side projects, but it was mostly you building that very ambitious and bold project. And I started to see that it was happening. I started to see that like you had more followers, and you started to talk more about it, and promote more videos about it. Like for this big project, you wanted to build the #1 summit for digital nomad. Did you, again, I will ask you this question again, but did you have fears before to start up?
No, because for me, once it's on paper, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Once I got the logo, it was real. It was on,
Okay. Okay.
until someone shows up and cancels the event and drags me out or prevents me from going to meetings with the contractors or lets those steps that are taken to get to the finished goal. If that doesn't happen, if somebody doesn't knock me out and lock me in my room, it's happening. That's the way that I live my life. And you're right. It was, I had a partner at the time, and I had people around me that were helping support it. But the gut and the heart of that happening or not happening fell entirely on me,
Mm.
especially financially too. I put my money where my mouth is too, and I'm sure we'll talk about how it evolved, but it was not ever not going to happen. And we'll talk about the
Mm-hmm.
version it turned into, but which was a blessing in disguise. But as soon as the logo, as soon as the website, like there was no turning back. I'm the kind of person
Yes.
where once it starts, we're starting on this road. Don't even think about turning around.
Mm-hmm. But that's what you say before commitment. You were committed
Absolutely.
toward that vision you had. And when I first started to observe you, it was from pretty far away, and was like, okay, let's just have a look at what he's doing and see if he's going to succeed or to fail, because it's ambitious, I was just impressed by what you were doing. And so it was supposed to be in, if I remember, in
June.
June this year, 2020.
Yep. Yep.
And then something happened a few months before that is called COVID-19, and a global pandemic, and people are not allowed to move and travel anymore. So so in Bali, the lockdown started mid-March 2020. So 3 months before the event. At which stage of the creation were you 3 months before the event? And like, how did you feel when you made a decision that,
Yeah.
yeah, you had to cancel?
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't as disappointed. I saw the reality I had to deal with when we had to postpone. By the way, we're still postponed till next June, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, it comes to fruition. But
Also.
I didn't have any thought of canceling, or there's never. We still haven't canceled. If you notice the theme here, it's not canceled. It's postponed till June, and when it hit the fan and I knew that the borders were going to close, that was the main thing. If the borders weren't closed and we could put in measures, it still would have happened. But because the borders became closed to tourists and to people generally entering and leaving Bali, I knew that the responsible thing would be to postpone it. And when I heard, I just smiled and said, okay, what are we going to do? What's the next move? So I took the best decision after that, which, as you know, it was the virtual summit, the virtual version. And I just smiled and I just knew like this is happening for a reason. And, despite we had a deposit, I put a deposit on the venue, like everything was in order. We were expecting 350 plus people. I wanted to get 1,000. I'm so ambitious. I wanted to have 1,000 people. Like I really believed that. And we were doing really well. And we may have even reached that if it wasn't for COVID. We'll never know, but we'll find out next year. So I didn't give up in any way, shape, or form. I just knew it had to evolve into something new.
Okay. So you responded pretty quickly, because you transformed the
Yeah.
physical event into a virtual one,
Yeah.
in a very short period of time. So how did you deal with that? How did you manage that? Because in the case of COVID, like other massive example, global example like this, you usually have to make quick decisions, not to grow but to survive first. And for you, it was making a decision to survive and keep growing. So how did you make that decision?
Yeah, I just knew that for the community that we had to make the best decision for the community. So I knew as soon as the borders got closed, within days, the decision was made to have a virtual event and to postpone the physical event till next year. We actually postponed the physical event to December, and then realizing that things wouldn't change. Everybody thought COVID would be over by now, even myself. That didn't change, so we postponed it earlier this year to next year. So it just came down to doing what was best for the community in the end, and something that would make sure that we also got together. There's all because COVID or anything happens around the world doesn't mean we can't connect as human beings, and I knew that had to happen in order to make sure that we were all growing, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And that's exactly what happened. It was a resounding success. We had for our virtual summit, over 800 people, so we almost got to the 1,000 goal that I even imagined. And a lot of new people as well, who we may not have been able to reach and help and show what's possible about this life, also joined. So it was really, really a blessing in disguise.
Okay, that's great. I like your mindset about bouncing back. It's not about
Absolutely.
complaining. Um, so what you've always had that desire for network and community.
Mhm.
Your manifestation journey towards building businesses that are about network and community. What did that teach you? What did you learn from all those years to follow your
Mm.
desires? What are your main key lessons?
Well, I think it's about is how do I answer this? When I started in California and pivoted and left and traveled the world and still came back to community and networking, it told me that we all have a gift and something we're destined. Like there's something in each one of us, and I identified it myself, that needs to breathe, that must be nurtured and grown and fostered. So in all of those experiences, I think it was more me learning what that would look like as time moved on. How does this evolve? How have you grown? What kind of impact can you have with your new skills? So I really saw it as an opportunity for using these gifts or talents to help other people. But what would it look like? It just came down to where I was in life, in my own growth, or geographically, living in Bali, or COVID happened, moving things online. It just came down to keeping true to who I was, and also for people watching, staying true to who you are and adjusting, still being able to be who you are in your gifts, your talents, your contributions to the world.
Okay, thanks for sharing your life lesson. I have two more
Sure, yeah.
questions for you. The first one is completely about yourself. So I would like you to imagine that you could keep going for a desire that you haven't pursued yet, or anything that you have in mind that would be so fucking amazing to achieve. And if you knew that you had 100% chance of success in achieving that thing, what would it be for you? What would be the thing you would go for right now after the call if you knew you had a 100% chance of success?
I'm already working on global diversity. It's the community online that will allow people like me, like you, and people watching to have a home. We talked about my upbringing, and there's always challenges in different people's lives. And what I noticed in my life was not having a safe space to be myself for one reason or another. And I really believe with global diversity, although it's a Skillshare platform where people are like, "Hey, here's how you grow on Instagram, and here's how you get more sales. Here's your high converting landing page." Behind that is the community support, the emotional support, the connection to other human beings through these events that are curated online and in person after COVID, to allow us to actually grow as human beings in a safe environment. So if I were to leave now, which is what I'm doing anyway, is to go and develop and build this with the right people, the right team, the right community, core beginning community members to communicate this and attract the people that need this. Not even that want it, because there's people who need, they sure need, nurturing and counseling on who they are, to go deeper into learning who they are so they can make themselves and their surroundings better. But they don't want it because they're not there yet. I want to be able to reach the people that don't even want it and show them what's possible, and use this baseline of a community to attract people who need it the most, especially during these times where we need connection, human connection.
Okay. And do you have kind of very big ambitious goal for global diversity? Is there a now some milestone you would like to reach that seems super far away or too bold?
Uh, I don't, because I don't see a limit. But then if I bring it to reality and look at numbers, I want to impact at least 1 million digital nomads and online entrepreneurs through this platform in one way or another. Whether they're members, whether they watch one of our master classes, or they give a skill share of their own, or they, anyone that I want to impact directly 1 million people with some way, shape, or form with this platform. And I believe that we can, and I believe that the world is in the best position ever for something like this to be able to reach and help and change lives.
Okay, thank you for that. My last question for you, Olumide,
Sure.
is an advice to people who have, like you had that feeling to go for something about community and networking. There are other people who are watching us right now who have another
Mhm.
feeling inside them, but this feeling is irrational or illogical. It's their gift, though. It's what you call a gift. What would be your best advice for those people who are lacking the confidence to go for it, to surrender, and to just have that committed faith toward that intuition, that calling, that idea, that vision they have inside them?
Wow, that's a powerful question. Um, I think I always think about like my future self. Like, when I'm 45 years old, will I be disappointed in myself? And it's not about falling short or not being good enough. It's about, are you being the best person you can? So I always think about that. Like when I'm 45 years old, which I'm 32 now, it's 13 years from now. Like, what would I look in the mirror and say? Would I be proud of my decisions to overcome my fears, to work on the things in the shadows you know, that are challenging to me to face head on because they're psychologically, emotionally difficult? Stepping up as a man to say, have you put yourself in a position that you want to? And have you gone and battled towards these things that make you feel not good enough, feel like you can't achieve and get a million people's lives impacted? If I can say to myself and look in the mirror, whatever that age is, whatever that later time is for you guys, I would say if you could look at yours and just give yourself a high five, like, yeah, man, we're good. Or yes, girl, like this is us. If you can proudly do that, then I think then you're good. But if you cower to the fears and the insecurities and the challenges and the things in the shadow that make you feel not good enough, or challenges that come into your life and you succumb to them because you just don't push hard enough, um, then that's a different story. So I think that's what I would say to people. Think about what your future self would say, like you, not what other people see, not what your family sees. But when you're sitting there in front of the mirror by yourself and you're thinking about the challenging, difficult moments you've had in your past life and your current situation, whether it's with relationships and the world that you're living in, the environment you're living in, can you look yourself in the face and say, we're both here together, right? Whatever that timing is between now and where you want to actually be.
Great. I love that. I'm going to share something related to that, because
Sure.
like putting yourself in your future self is something that I also do. And just give me 1 second.
Sure.
This is something that I have and that I feel every week is, it's my life calendar. And so it's a
Wow.
90 years life calendar. And every week I feel 1 square because it's 1 week of my life that is gone.
Wow.
And it really helps me to reflect on, yeah, there is, like, if I live until 90 years, there is only that time left. And every week time
Wow.
flies, visually. So I resonate with what you say because I have that literally in front of my desk, and it helps me to
Wow.
be focused and be committed.
That's amazing. Where can we get our own life calendars?
You can get that online. I found it online, and then I put a frame on it, and it's
I
my
noticed,
weekly
yeah, yours
task.
is a little bit more elaborate.
Yeah, I put a frame on it.
Wow.
Try
So
to make
cool.
it looking yeah, looking well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Very
think
cool. I'll
it's really,
consider getting something like that. It puts things in perspective.
yeah. I will give you the link so that you can have a look.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mm.
Um, Thank you very much, yeah, for the insights and, imagining what would be a life without regrets. That's important. So you have some events, coming on Globalversity soon. Do you want to say a few words about it?
Sure. Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity. Just so you know, like it's something that's so important to me, and I'm so glad you gave me this platform to share about it, even during the questioning. So thank you so much, Kevin. For me, I'm thinking to myself, my vision. And I'm gonna just put this out there. So let's just manifest this together, everybody. Everybody ready? My vision is to have a weekly Skillshare and eventually daily Skillshare on our platform. So what I want you guys to know is that on Globalversity, if you go to globalversity.com, I'm sure we'll get the link shared in the description of this video. Um, in the next few days to the next week, we're going to have an upcoming Skillshare or masterclass, and I would love for you to join us. We have varying skills, from learning sales to learning, branding, to learning even meditation, breath work. We're going to cover the whole gamut of what it takes to live this lifestyle. And I would love to see you on there. And most importantly, one of the biggest features we have is you being able to share your own Skillshare with the community. It's not just about someone standing on a throne and saying, this is me, I've achieved all this. This is about everybody having an opportunity to share their gift with the rest of the community on a regular basis. So within the next few weeks, join us on Globalversity, and we hope to see you wherever you are in the world.
Awesome. Thank you, Olumide. Yeah, you can click on the link that announced this interview. to join Globoversity, to see how it looks like, and to join the Skillshare and be part of this community that is Olumide's desire. So yeah, I look forward to see your vision manifesting and to reach the weekly or daily Skillshare on Globoversity. Thank you very much for your time, for the insight, and for having the vulnerability to share your story and being open-minded. I really appreciate that. So spreading love. I wish you a wonderful day, and I look forward to hearing back from you.